This is Success in Excess, where elite founders, lawyers, and clinic owners engineer success through strategy, scale, and systems. Powered by GrowthX.
Welcome back to Success in Excess, the show where ambition meets excellence, where we're meeting with Mr. Christopher Nudo today of NTegrity Law, who specializes in estate law, probates, mergers and acquisitions, and real estate. But before all that, I want to bring you our podcast, Success in Excess, powered by GrowthX, the premier growth engine for law firms looking to scale with precision. Whether you're aiming to attract higher value clients, streamline intake, or expand your presence in a competitive market, GrowthX helps you build a modern firm without burning out. Learn more at growthxmarketing.ai. Today's guest embodies the kind of leadership most lawyers aspire to: principled, innovative, and committed to both legacy and leverage. Christopher Nudo, founder of NTegrity Law, has guided hundreds of families, business owners, and entrepreneurs through estate planning, probate, and mergers with precision and grace. With a strong foundation in Christian faith, his firm has grown over 5,000% in just 10 years, now averaging 360 estate plans per year, 30 probates annually, 120 real estate transactions, and anywhere between 12 to 18 mergers and acquisition transactions every single year. He's built a firm that's equal parts integrity and power, a rare balance of strategic thinking, passionate counsel, and operational excellence. If you're an attorney building your firm and you want to grow without losing your values or your time, you'll want to learn it. Let's dive into Integrity's journey and the systems, mindsets, and faith that made it all possible. Christopher, welcome.
Thank you.
Walk us through your journey. How did your legal path begin, and what inspired you to found NTegrity Law?
So my legal path started 30 years ago, 1993 to be exact, where I started in a small law firm that was headed by my father, Dennis Nudo, at the time. And he really gave me the foundation of understanding transactional law, the real estate, the estate plans, the probate aspects of the type of practice that we practice today. Fast forward that to 2025, and while the foundation is still solid and still the same, everything has changed. The way we approach the law, the way we hold our values out, the way we treat our clients, the processes involved, all really have been refined and make us who we are today.
Okay, so you originally inherited from your father, and I'm pretty sure he taught you so much that you already explained to us. Now, when you took over the reins, where did you see the firm going, and how did that development kind of, if threw a curveball at you? Like, what did you think you knew, but you didn't know in reality?
Yeah, sure. So I would love to say that the practice today, the integrity law of today, is nothing more than a succession of what my dad put in place. But unfortunately, life wasn't just that smooth for me. In 2012, I left practicing law with my dad and went off on my own. I was a in-house counsel for a large church in the Chicagoland area. And then when that run for that church ended, which was a really good season of my life, but also a very difficult season of my life. It was 2019 that I found myself in a place where I was literally with nothing, starting over. And it was at that point where I had the privilege of completely reinventing the law firm as I knew it. And if you can do the math from 1993 to 2019, I had been immersed in a traditional law practice kind of environment, if you would. And I said that was not the path I wanted to take. I wanted to create a law firm that had strong branding, had a clear mission, had a clear message, stood for something, and was a law firm that people in the community could get to know without having to come and meet us, which meant that we had to build a very strong online brand, a very strong online message, and agreed to be extremely vulnerable with our clients and potential clients and the community about who we were. And if we resonated with them, that would be fantastic.
Amazing, amazing. So you kind of answered my second question, kind of where was that pivotal point where you knew this was more than just a job, but a calling. And that's amazing how you were able to take that, overcome these obstacles where, basically you were practicing, I think, at least 23 years, and then now you're starting over from scratch with your firm handling the volume that you guys currently handle. Comes to my next question. It's your firm handles hundreds of estate plans per year, and yet each client feels seen. Walk us through how that structure, the client journey from first consultation to document delivery, is really unique in integrity law.
I believe that estate planning is really a love language. And I say it that way because when you plan for your death and the transfer of your assets to your children or other people in your family that you love or charities that you want to bless with what you have, you are spending the time and energy to leave a legacy. And that legacy should represent your values. It should represent your character. It should represent your love for the people that you're leaving behind. And so at Integrity Law, what we do is we start with just an understanding of who our client is and what is important to them, what motivates them, what would an estate plan look like that communicated their love, passion, and ultimate legacy to the people they're leaving behind. That's at the core of every estate plan that we do. Anybody with a little bit of training can assemble documents, but not everybody can communicate a plan that creates efficiency, creates simplicity, creates protection for their children, creates possible special needs provisions for disabled children. These are the kind of steps that we take with every client to ensure that each client gets a custom plan that represents them specifically.
Very good, very good. And so, what I heard from that is, you're following similar to most of the trends now, and you've been doing it before most people have, which is valuing that customer client experience. The experience they have with you, not only as being a client, and obviously you get paid for it, but it brings rewards outside of that. One, because you've helped a family secure their legacy, they're protected, they're not going to be victim to other people trying to take advantage of them in that situation, and their time of passing is going to be a little bit smoother for the family because they're not dealing with such volatile situations which can arise when people don't end up having an estate plan and they have assets that need to either be liquidated, transferred, and what you're giving them is basically peace at their rite of passage towards the next life or to heaven. That's really what you're giving to them. And a lot of times, like you said, you hit on a very important topic. If they have a loved one that's disabled, they may need, extra access or accommodations made outside the norm. You can go to one of these websites and get, $100 estate plan, but is that really going to protect you? Is it really going to bring the value that you're looking for what you've put together in your lifetime? No, and that's why people come to someone like you, an expert in the field that's not only, an expert analytically, but you have a strong sense and understanding of where this goes beyond the tangible, the intangible, the family dynamics, the love that's resonated from working a lifetime and making sure that, even though you're not going to be here, your loved ones are still taken care of, you're still providing for them in some way. It's a beautiful job that you're doing as well, because it's a necessity nowadays. You have strong principles. You have a very strong client experience that allows them to really resonate with you and feel you on a more, depth. But how do you keep that level of care consistent as your caseload and your team scale? Are there any particular systems, principles, or habits that you currently use that could help a potential listener that, is scaling their firm currently? They want to maintain that high quality approach, but it's maybe finding issues with it without having to compromise their principles.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I would say is you need to be the person that you're representing yourself to be. So, that's one of the reasons we chose integrity law. With the word integrity, we're talking about, doing the right thing even when nobody's looking. And, to me, that was always the cliche definition of integrity. For me, it was always just do the right thing. Like, you don't need to, like, there is no, when people are looking, not looking, they just do the right thing.
Do the right thing.
Now you have to have these principles. Everybody in your firm has to ascribe to this value system. And as we all know, leadership is a top-down model. But we don't treat one another here in a top-down environment. Everybody is an equal. I have several paralegals. I have a number of attorneys. And I don't hold myself above any of them. Each one is core to the practice that I have, and each one deserves equal respect and equal dignity. And so it starts internally. And once you build what I call a family environment, but honestly, it's better than a family environment because families don't treat each other as well as we treat each other here. But when you build that internal value system, now, not always and not perfectly, but with greater frequency, we can treat every client exactly the way we want to, with that type of love, compassion, concern. And like I said, we're not perfect, but I can tell you, if you're growing a firm, start by building the culture internally, and then the outward expression of that internal culture will be recognized by your clients.
Amazing, amazing. Sir Richard Branson had always said that, if you treat your employees right, they'll treat your customers right.
That's right.
And, it's very, simple understanding. And the fact that, what I find very unique about you, Christopher, is the fact that, you really don't prostrate or have your ego out there. You've built an amazing firm. You've grown this 5,000 in the past 10 plus years. You're doing your thing. Now, you still associate your successes and your accomplishments to the team that you've built. The people that are supporting you, the paralegals, the office assistant, your other associates, where a lot of people, they like to take the glory for themselves. And it just shows, how deep your principles go, and it's not something that can be, shattered or moved, which is amazing, because in the long run, it's kind of like this is a marathon, not a sprint. And as you continue practicing, you're going to end up winning the race because of it, outlasting the others. Now, scaling a law firm, again, 5,000% is no small feat. What have been your biggest growth challenges, and how do you think you've overcome them?
So, all right, by far the biggest growth challenge that I have is trying to do everything. I probably get 20 invitations a week from different people on LinkedIn telling me how they can grow my firm better than I can grow it. 40 a month easily. And, I get countless emails from marketing people telling me how my website's not ranking on Google the way it should. There is, and lead source providers saying, oh, we'll deliver X number of leads to your inbox for this cost. And the most difficult thing in a practice like ours is trying to clear the noise and just distill what is important. And that's not easy. I can tell you that, we have tried numerous vendors. We have tried numerous techniques, numerous Google programs. We've, first of all, don't be afraid to try. But second of all, recognize quickly how and when to cut your losses and your expenses. Also, having a zillion vendors all pulling in different directions or overlapping directions is a really bad thing. And I've experienced that as well. So first of all, I've learned a lot through trial and error. And today I can tell you to grow a firm well, stay focused, be very loyal to the vendors that are doing well by you, measure your return on investment client by client, month by month, dollar by dollar, and stay disciplined on that. And you will have good results moving forward.
I mean, you couldn't have said it better. I mean, unfortunately, the industry, it kind of gets away. And you mentioned something about, how when the marketing companies are approaching you, they're telling you how they can help you build your firm better than you know it. And at the end of the day, they don't generally understand that we operate as a growth partner. We understand that you guys are the attorneys, you're the specialists, you're the expert. We may have tactics and techniques that we use to help law firms grow, but coming in there and trying to tell them, okay, you don't know what you're doing, you're not running it correctly, when you may see as a marketing company one side, and there's 8 sides to the equation. There's many sides to it, and you're seeing one side for them. They have to juggle all of them. So and a lot of companies think that they can, but they're using the same cookie cutter method. And like for you, demographics are so, how do I say, unique, where in some part of your business you're targeting 60 and up, right? And in certain parts of your business you may be charging a different demographic. But understanding those complex understandings of who's who for what service, when to go after them, how to run the system for it without them clashing with each other, that's a very finely tuned balance that you have to handle generally on your own, or at least oversee and delegate, which makes it even harder of a nut to crack. But to help you alleviate these issues, what current tools, automations, where CRMs are you currently using that you would say is helping your firm? That's easy to use, and if somebody needed something of that sort, they would get your recommendation for it.
Sure, thanks. So CRMs for the small law firm, I can tell you that, and I can say this because I don't sell any of them. There's not a great one out there. If I can be candid, that's just the fact. They all have their pluses and minuses. Everything from Clio to Practice Panther to Leap to My Case. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I think I've demoed every single one of them. And I find flaws with each and every one of them. Currently, we're using My Case. It's owned by a company called Affinipay. They do a reasonably good job. Not perfect. They're in a cloud-based environment. They offer a client portal. They have an accounting side to it, but it still needs to grow in its reporting side and its accounting side, and it still has growth pains it needs to go through. For the solo practitioner, it's probably fine, but we're a firm of 5 lawyers, and even at 5, which is super small, it could be better. We came off of Clio, and Clio is an incredibly strong CRM platform, but we didn't like the fact that Clio Manage, which is their lead management and generation side of the CRM, is separate and apart from the Clio Manage side. That was a distraction for our firm. But you know what? Clio had better reporting. It had better billing techniques. So You know what? When it comes to CRMs, there is no perfect CRM. And gosh, if there was one made, I'd be switching today. But that's kind of I would say, my summary on what we're using for client management systems. We are a wealth counsel partner right now, which is it's the network in which we generate our estate plans. And they're very, very good, kind of, tested in the marketplace. But I'm also learning that there are a number of really reputable competitors out there to Wealth Counsel that now we're looking into, just to ensure that we are servicing our clients the best with the best possible tools out there.
Very good. Very Wealth Counsel, as well as Clio Grow and My Case. So realistically, legal marketing is tough.
Yes.
Especially in saturated fields like estate planning. What strategies have really helped you cut through the noise, really focus on what matters, what doesn't matter, and kind of come out ahead when you have 50 different firms attacking the same person saying, I can do your estate, I can do your estate. What makes you really stand out amongst this crowd?
Yeah, it's our vulnerability by far. It's telling our story in a way that potential clients or anybody in the public can go to our website, click on our videos. Each one of our lawyers has a personal testimony video out there. When it goes into everything from what are our hobbies, what's our marriage life like, who am I as a person, not a lawyer? Because at the end of the day, people relate to people. I put my pants on the same way all men put on their pants. And so when somebody comes and sits with me, I need them to be able to relate person to person. And so the way we hold ourselves out to the public helps us cut through the noise, makes us different than the guy across the street, the guy down the block, the guy in the next town, because we put ourselves out there first for you to learn about us. If you like what you see about us, then you'll come to us. Further, and I hope every firm does this because it is so important, get reviews from your clients. I don't buy a product without first looking at does it have a 5-star? Does it have a 4-star? Does it have a 3-star rating? And how many 5-star versus how many 1-star ratings? And more importantly, what are the people saying about the attorney that they met with? And so, I won't buy a simple thing like a car battery without knowing the reviews on it. I hope that the public wouldn't hire a lawyer who's going to plan their legacy without knowing what others have to say about it.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many attorneys, if I could, and this is just my suggestion, if I could tell an attorney that's running a firm as a solo practitioner, what's the one thing you can do? And let's say it costs no money. Let's say your budget is tight. You just started your firm. You barely have an office and a laptop, but you're going in there. You're gonna hustle. Every single client you do work with, get a review. I don't care if you think it's kind of being aggressive or pushing. Get a review. If they say no, that's fine. But make sure you're accountable and say, okay, I finished the case with this individual. I'm going to send him my review link. I'm going to ask him for a review in person. Simple as that. And that is going to be one of your highest return on investments and also your lowest actual investment, because all it takes is sweat equity. You've already done the work. The client's already happy. Now you just got to slide over a client review and say, hey, this helps me help other people. I'd appreciate it. Give a review. If you did a good job by them, there's no reason for them not to take 30 seconds to type something up.
It's also a learning experience because you know what? We're not perfect. I'd like to tell you that, I resonate at the highest level with every client, but that's not the case. Some clients like me more than others. And this gives the client the ability, the platform in which to really express their expression of how they really felt with working with us. And I appreciate the authenticity that comes from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it keeps everything kind of raw. Well, so we have that. We talked about reviews. What's one marketing tactic you can say that you've tried in your firm and that just didn't work out?
So, Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Facebook ads, I threw what, in my opinion, was a ridiculous amount of money at the design of Facebook ads, developing a funnel and, using all the marketing techniques, doing A/B testing and doing it over several months and spending more money than I care to admit, and it really was not worth it. Now, in the end, my ad dollars did break even. I stuck with it long enough where my ad dollars broke even, but I never recouped the money into design and implementation of it. And so, it could have been the firm that did the Facebook marketing, or it just maybe what I'm doing just doesn't translate well at Facebook, but that's the one area where I have not been able to convert.
I will say, in my experience, it's kind of funny that a firm kind of suggested. So, I've worked with law firms from intellectual property all the way down to, recovering funds from, class action lawsuits. I even have a client now that she does only Title IX, getting colleges accredited, right? As schools accredited. Now, dealing with all of them, you see, it's not as simple as criminal defense and personal injury or even immigration, where you can run a Facebook ad and you're going to target the middle class demographic that makes up the large matter of population. When you're running an estate firm, right, you're dealing with estates, you're dealing with trusts, you're dealing with wills, probate, and even mergers and acquisitions. It's very rare that you see somebody going to the guy on Facebook to say, hey, can you help me with my M&A deal, or can you help me figure out what my life plan is for my legacy? But Google is always the best one because that's where people that are making an informed decision go, where they can look at reviews. They're going to look at different directories. If they're going to look the person up, they're going to see his Google business profile, his website, and how many stars he has. They really don't care if he's running a Facebook ad because that's it's kind of mistaken. You will target a large demographic of people. Let's say if we're targeting estate for Facebook ads, you'll target a large population for 60 and up, but you won't target a population that generally has the assets in place for the need for an asset or an estate lawyer, right? At that point, it's kind of like you're targeting people that, just generally on the demographic, they're not $1 million more in net worth and assets. So they're not really looking for an estate attorney.
Well, and,
So I think that could be the issue.
in addition to that, I think you're 100% right in everything you said. I would just add to that and say that often the person that's on Facebook, that's scrolling through everything and seeing your ads, may not be the decision maker in the family.
Exactly. That's another key part.
Yeah, the decision maker is traditionally doesn't have the time just to be perusing Facebook on a casual
Facebook
basis.
during the day.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I will say that by far the greatest return we've seen on our advertising is definitely the Google LSA, local service ads. We got in on LSA at the ground floor right when our market opened, many years ago now. And we maximize our budget there, and that is the greatest source of return for us.
LSAs are definitely, if you can do LSAs, they're probably the best option for you. And considering that you're outside of Chicago, LSAs can be very expensive in some places, but it's pretty much the closest thing you're going to get to a guaranteed lead, you know? And it can get a little bit pricey, but, if you're dealing in a high ticket business, right? If you have to spend, let's say, $100 or $150 a lead, and let's say for every 10 you turn into a client, and that each client's averaging, let's say, 5-6 grand plus, if not more, then it's worth it at the end of the day. LSAs are an amazing tool, especially if you combine LSAs with Google ads and a keyword placement. And if you do it correctly, you can leverage. See, the important thing is if somebody's doing a geo mapping of your website and where your actual positioning is SEO wise, you can position your LSAs and kind of fill out a blocker system. So if I know, let's say we have 10 pages, 10 different front homepage, 10 different first pages on Google. One's for estate lawyer in Rolling Meadows, estate lawyer Chicago, estate lawyer Egan, estate lawyer, let's say Chicago, right? Well, one of them holds your
Yep, you're
LSA.
100% right.
Next one, you go to Google Ads, and now you've covered that whole market. So on all 10, if anybody pops up, you're going to pop up on all 10 of those actual inquiries. And now you're kind of covered it very evenly.
Yeah, and with Chicago being as massive as it is, we work on geofencing every month. We're adding like 4 new communities every month, and we've been doing this for 2 years. And with Chicago and its metro area being so large, we're probably only halfway mapped at this point.
Chicago's a huge, and that's smart that you guys are running like a segmented plan like that. These are the things that to our listeners they need to understand. The way Christopher is operating his firm, he's actually running it like it's a blueprint system where if he's doing 4 every month, every other month, and continue to grow it out, that's where you get that exponential rate of return. Where when people are asked, let's say there's a pond with algae on it and it grows, it doubles itself in a day. Well, after a month, if the whole pond is halfway full, how much does it have, the next day? Now, most people don't understand that exponential theory. They're going to be like, well, it'll take another month. No, in reality, it'll take another day because it's doubling itself in a day. And that's where, in this aspect, you see the real snowball effect with your results, because you might do 4, neighborhoods every single month. You look at it from 12 months from now, it's snowballed into such a big area where you're literally popping up in every single neighborhood within a 20-mile radius, because that's the exponential effect. Let's say, you're on the front lines of estate planning, probate, and business law. What trends are you watching closely that involves the legal industry and how it's evolving?
So in the legal industry, I'm finding that being part of a strong network on a national basis really will allow your brand to penetrate your local community. And so, um, most lawyers sit in their office in their city, and in their mind, the community that they're serving is wherever their mind reaches, but it's local. And in the legal community, so people today are everywhere. So what I mean by that is I might live in Chicago, but I might winter in Palm Springs, or I might have kids that are in New Mexico, or I might not have a home and I might travel in an RV. I see a lot of this. And
Yeah.
so people define their community very different. Community used to be the neighborhood you live in, but now community is really, it could be the people you go to church with. Community could be the people you play pickleball with. Community could be all of that. It's just not your neighborhood anymore. And so what I'm learning and what I've really tried to adapt to is creating a legal environment. This is colleagues and other law firms similarly situated like myself throughout the country, literally in all the different states, so that we can call upon one another, and we do monthly, for help, for assistance, for guidance, for support. And we don't see each other as competitors because we're hundreds of miles from each other. So we're more collaborating and being colleagues and really raise, the old adage, the rising tide raises all ships. Well, that's kind of what I'm doing. And that's really what I see in the legal community today. It's no more that just one law firm can just, unless you're a mega firm like a Jenner and Block or something. But for guys like myself, you need to be bigger by associating yourself with equals throughout the country.
Absolutely. And you touched on a very strong point right there. In this day and age, people are everywhere, and you have access to everyone from every part of the globe to every part of the country, and it's in less than a snap of a finger. You can pick up the phone right now or send a message to somebody in California. Within an instant, they can respond back to you and help you out with whatever query that you have. And that makes, a very an old school profession that was known to be isolated and kind of a boys club to really open its doors and really expand outwardly. And as you see, you have legal professionals, you have attorneys now doing, a lot of content online, really building out their brand, showing people, what their expertise is, providing free information, because at the end of the day, they know that's going to resonate and it's going to actually have rewards at the end by running those systems. Simple things, because in reality, you could probably run a YouTube channel, right? And on that YouTube channel, you could probably explain to people exactly what they need to do to put their estate plan together. And I guarantee you, 99 or even 999 out of 1,000 people, even if they had a step A through Z, would not do it. And they would say, I'm just going to call Christopher because he knows what he's doing and I can't do this. And that's where a lot of people need to get past that, kind of coveting the information they have, because information now is pretty much at our fingertips in any way. You just have to know where to look and how to look for it. So it makes it very clear, you're building your brand, you're trying to associate with other attorneys in the country, you're really focusing on expanding your firm's, not only who you practice with and who you, service as clients, but build the brand, on a domestic level where you guys are interacting with others, helping others. And that's really all about helping thy neighbor, which comes to our, one of our another questions. What role does your Christian worldview play in helping clients navigate difficult life transitions with wisdom and peace?
Yeah. So, my Christian faith is interwoven in our entire practice. And, we try to make that so in your face on our website, but not in a preachy or we just want you to know that we embrace our faith and we're not ashamed of it. And if you like our faith, or you resonate with our faith, or if our faith gives you any comfort, then that helps you understand who we are. And our faith helps so much because I believe it helps in our compassion. We know what we have walked through. We are not perfect people. Nothing about me says perfect person. I have a tremendous amount of failures and regrets and things that, I would say, boy, only if I knew, I'd do it over again. But the reality is what those were the testing grounds in my growth and in my maturity. And so we use our faith in the firm to care for others, to help listen more than we talk, so that we can then really resonate the values and the things that are important to each client and be able to do the work the client wants. And let me tell you something. So I don't always get it right. I have clients that aren't happy. It happened this weekend. I got a text. Actually, it was an angry voicemail because we typed something wrong. We didn't spell a name right. It's taking us longer than she wanted it to. I felt genuinely bad because I didn't live up to her expectations. It's not a matter of whether or not we did it right. It's a matter that her expectations were not fulfilled. And so I took the time this weekend and I let her know that I heard her loud and clear, and I'm going to take the steps necessary so that she's comforted in knowing that she was heard and that we will do everything we can to make it right to her.
Wow. Okay. That it's crazy that you say that, because, I've dealt with so many law firms in my past, and most of them in that situation, generally, it's about billable hours. If they've already finished the case, it's kind of like, there's nothing I can do from here. And the fact that, you're willing to go above and beyond and even be able to understand, whether you guys did the job right or wrong, if she wasn't happy, and still feel, knowing that you want every single client to have a positive experience and not go and justify, well, we did the right job. And if you're upset, you're upset, but actually care, what was in that situation that we could have done better, that would have
Absolutely.
made her happier. It's absolutely mesmerizing when we talk about it because it's not really found in this industry. And as we continue our podcast today, we're going to head into this lightning round. So it's coming towards closer to the end, but we do a lightning round where we ask a few questions really quickly of you, Christopher, and kind of, short and snappy. First one, most overlooked estate planning mistake you generally see.
DIY, doing it yourself. People who think that it's just nothing but a document that gets filled out and signed, and that's the biggest mistake I see.
Go to Bible verse or principle you turn to in leadership.
Treat everybody equally. Love thy neighbor, meaning that from, every family member, every family is dysfunctional, and go into, every meeting knowing that every relationship is broken. And if you apply love thy neighbor, then you can love everyone despite the circumstances they find themselves in.
Beautiful, beautiful. Advice you'd give yourself.
My younger self was a terribly arrogant, addictive type of person and was very destructive relationally. And so if I could go back, I'd be like, listen, you're not as cool as you think you are. And you need to step back and you need to learn from some of these older folks and not be so much about you. You need to show some moderation in life and not think that you're going to conquer the world by age 30. I tried, by the way, but you know what? I was humbled, and that's, if I could go back, that's what I'd tell my younger self.
Awesome, awesome. Now, what is your favorite way to unwind after a high stakes negotiation?
I love to work out. So three things I really enjoy. I love to work out. So, get me on a bike, get me in a pool, get me on a pickleball court. I love ice cream. So,
Nice.
if you're going to take me out for a big old sundae and I'm going to heap it up and I'm going to make it much bigger because my eyes are bigger than my stomach, like, I'd love that. And
Flavor.
what flavor? Vanilla, believe it or not.
Okay,
But
okay.
then I heap like everything on it. So you can pile it up with everything from bananas to whipped cream to nuts to hot fudge to, like, go crazy because I'll eat it. And then throw a cone on top of it. I'm in.
Damn.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. See, that's part of that addictive personality. And then, you know what? Yeah, I really, really, really enjoy a fine meal. I value fine dining. And you know what? This is one of those areas where people criticize me because they're like, that's just a little too foo-foo, Chris, and I'm like, no, no, no. I love to go to a fine restaurant where a waiter or waitress is going to allow me to consume their table for 2.5 hours, and I can just enjoy the experience and enjoy the good food. So, you know what? Those three things keep Chris happy.
Well, I think anybody would enjoy those three things. Working out is amazing. I don't know who hates ice cream. And I can tell you, I love going to a very nice, fine restaurant. Personally, me, I could go for a very nice steak. That's one of my go-to meals. What's your go-to meal?
Definitely steak. Like, I'm definitely a carnivore at heart. In Chicago here, we have amazing steak houses. After that though, I'm Italian, so a fresh homemade pasta dish. Oh my gosh.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Christopher, this was incredible. Your story is a powerful example of what's possible when excellence meets integrity. Where can listeners go to connect with you, learn more, or work with your firm?
Our website, Our website is the portal right to us. It's NTegrityLaw.com. You can see our lovely sign here, NTegrityLaw.com. And there you can get our phone number to call us. You can text us. You can message us. You can email us. My goodness, like any form of communication. I'm not sure if it takes smoke signals or not, but it might. That's the best place to, number one, get to know us, and number two, contact us.
Awesome. Amazing. Amazing. And to all our listeners, it's today's episode's challenged or inspired you, share it with a colleague or leave a 5-star review. Let's keep growing this community of high-impact, purpose-driven leaders. Until next time, stay strategic, stay faithful, and keep building. Thank you, guys.
Own your growth. Scale with systems powered by GrowthX. Subscribe to Success in Excess for those who lead with precision and scale with purpose.